Right, we'll just wait for a few more people to arrive. Welcome, everyone. I'll start in a second. Just a few more incoming people. Just wait for them. All right. All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Joanne Mark Jones, and I'm head of content here at Charity Digital. I'll be your host for today. Please do introduce yourselves in the chat and let us know where you're joining from. First, a very brief introduction to Charity Digital. If you don't already know, we are a registered UK charity, and our mission is to help other charities increase their impact by being digital or by being more digital. And one of the ways we do that is by hosting webinars. And today's session is called How to Master Grant Funding and will be hosted by grant funding expert and director of Get Grants, John Ellery. We will cover, among other things, the current landscape of grant funding, the right funders for you to approach, how to make an application stand out, tips to increase your chances of success, and so much more. Now, before I hand over to John, I will share a few house rules. Many of you will have heard these before. The session is being recorded, as you may have heard, and will be uploaded to watch on demand in a week's time. We will share slides and resources too, so don't worry if you miss anything. Closed captions are available for today's session. To enable these, in the bottom of the Zoom window, click the up arrow next to closed captions and then click show subtitles. During the webinar, please ask loads of questions in the Q&A section, which you can find at the bottom of the Zoom menu, and we'll address those at the end of the presentation. If someone asks a question that resonates with you, then you can upvote that question by clicking the thumbs up icon. That will tell us that basically more people want us to answer that particular question, and so we'll prioritize it at the end. And finally, if you do have any sound or image issues, just let us know in the chat, and we'll do our very best to get the session back to normal as soon as possible. Cool. All right. Without further ado, I will now hand over to our presenter for today, John.
Brilliant. Thank you, Owen. Afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you to Charity Digital for having me here to do this session with you guys. I recognise a few names in the chat box, so hello, but also a load of people I've never seen before. So lovely to have loads of you here today. As Johan says, do say hello in the chat box. It's always nice. I'll use the chat box a couple of times across this session, actually. So do get that up and open. As Johan says, my name's John. I am director of Get Grants. We're a grant fundraising consultancy and training provider. Can't remember if I have a slide on who Get Grants are. I haven't. I'm not going to tell you too much. Google us, have a look at us. The great thing about running Get Grants is that we're in a position that we can do loads of stuff for free. We, of course, do paid for training courses and on-demand downloadable stuff, but we also do probably maybe 3 or 4 free sessions every single month. We also have a conference, a 2-day virtual conference, which is completely free, taking place in October. There will be details about that in the follow-up email from the Charity Digital team. So please do, if you've never come across us before, do have a little look at us. But this is what we're doing. We're going to chuck a load of grant fundraising stuff at you for the next, what we're on, 55 minutes. I'm going to talk to you about a load of things. As the session was advertised, we want to talk about a load of I'm going to call it the basics of bid writing, but we'll tackle it in a few different ways so that I suppose it's not overly basic, but also we're just going to get some thoughts, we're going to get some, provide some information, try and raise a little bit of confidence, but also really hopefully make people think about what's happening in the sector at the moment. So I'm not going to go through each section and say what that's about, so we're going to crack on and talk about a load of stuff. I'll be really interested in the chat box. I'm just interested in who's here. In particular, I think I'll just stick with this first question, actually. Just let us know your bid writing experience or knowledge. Where would you rank yourself out of 10? Are you a very, very experienced bid writer, a 9 or a 10, and you know loads and loads and loads, or are you completely new to this. Are you like who's that Sarah in the chat box and Beth also in the chat box, who maybe is being thrown into this? Thank you, everyone. Do keep on letting us know. With the webinar format as well, please be aware you need to change that to button in the bottom left of the chat box. Hopefully that makes some sense. Some of you have got it set as hosts and panelists, which means only myself and Ewan can see it. If you set it to everyone, it means that everyone can see it. There were lots and lots of new people here. And what we find is even those people who have lots of experience, most of us are self-learned. Most of us still feel like we're making it up as we go along. Most of us aren't sure if we're doing the right things. So hopefully the more experience of you will going to get some bit of confirmation stuff today, as well as a load of top tips and advice. Current climate, I just think I was saying to Johan before I started, I was very happy to come and do a standard bid writing session. This is how to fill in the forms. This is how to find the places to apply. But I think at the moment we have to be super aware. We have to be super aware of what's happening in the sector, what the challenges that we're faced with, which I'm sure many of you will be really aware of, but I've got some points about it which I think are really important. So what is happening in the sector? And I apologise to those of you who are new, who's at Georgia, who's a newbie. Now isn't the best time to start bid writing. I'm going to spin this positive in the end, I promise you. Now isn't the best time. It is competitive. It is hard. It is difficult out there at the moment. That's what you hear. Get yourself on. Do get this if you're a newbie. If you're a newbie, get yourself on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect to me. I'm John Ellery, I should say. I'm John Ellery. Do connect to people on LinkedIn. Get yourself on the Facebook groups. At Get Grants, we've got one. The best one out there at the moment is the Trust Fundraising Hub, in my opinion. Join the Facebook groups, listen to what people are talking about. And unfortunately, at the moment, you're going to hear people saying rejections are out there. Rejections are commonplace at the moment. It is hard going, it is competitive. The reason why rejection rates are super high, or maybe just high at the moment, is oversubscription. There are too many of us applying for too little grants. Funders will say that we're very fortunate to get grants. We talk to lots of funders, and most of them are saying, and I do caveat that with most of them are saying, we've never had so many applications. We've never seen the competition so high. I'm not sure high in terms of numbers anyway. We've never had so many applications, and therefore we're having to reject. We're having to reject more than previously. Makes sense. Funders only got enough funding to fund 50 organisations. It doesn't matter if they receive 100 applications or 1,000 applications, they're still only going to fund 50. So the more applications out there, the more rejections we're going to get. And so there's lots and lots of competition, and lots of people are seeing their success rates, their success rates decreasing. We also have funders responding to the situation. I'm alluding here with the pause closed under review. I'm alluding here to the list, which is an initiative led by Joe Jeffrey. Apologies to those of you who that makes a little sense to, but Joe is, Google it, find it. Joe is documenting what funders are doing. And using the sector to support that. And we are seeing that lots of funders are closing. They are stopping giving out grants. They are saying we are oversubscribed. We can't cope. We need to think about how we do that. Whilst we say closed, most funders are pausing, and they are then reopening. What we're finding with that reopening is there is a bit of a challenging move for us in the sector. There's a challenging move to solicited grant giving. So some funders are closing their open applications and saying, well, we're going to give out money to the organisations that we find rather than them coming to us. It's something we hear about and talk about. It's not as big, in my opinion, as some of us think. So I can tell you a few dozen, maybe a dozen or so funders who are doing that, but I can't tell you dozens and hundreds of them. But what is happening as they're reopening, they are tightening their guidelines. They are being much more specific about what they want to fund. And so we need to be aware of that. Have I got another slide on there? So what we are seeing is, and this is something that I've just started in the last week, started to talk about. This is my third presentation this week about the high application cycle. Apologies to people who've been to the other two. But this is one of the things that I'm trying to build awareness of what's happening in the sector for many reasons. Some of those reasons are the growth of the sector. Some of those reasons are a focus on grant fundraising by fundraisers as a whole. More of us are trying to do grants rather than events or community or individual or legacy fundraising. More of us are focusing on grants. The sector is getting bigger. There are more, in particular, social enterprises, community groups. There's more people looking to apply. And maybe people like us that get grants or charity excellence are playing a role in supporting people with information. So there are more people are feeling empowered to apply for grants, and maybe AI is also helping people to submit more applications and get more. So there's many reasons we are seeing more applications being received by funders. And that results in an increase in rejections. As I say, more applications that go in, obviously, the more rejections that have to take place. And the concern then is that this cycle that I'm showing you is that we are responding to, well, this is what we do. We respond to rejections, grant applications being turned down. It says increased stress. First of all, it just hurts. There are many of us bid writers out there, and every time we get a rejection, it feels like we're being punched in the chest, maybe. It feels like it's gut-wrenching. It's like, oh, I thought I was going to get that one. And we have an emotional response to it. It's understandable, but we do. It also leads to that stress because we are then going, but we need some money. I need to have some success. I need to get some funding from somewhere. And getting a rejection only makes us feel that even stronger. Similarly, our colleagues, our employees, our trustees, our line managers, maybe our service delivery colleagues end up inadvertently putting pressure and stress onto us as well. We really need to get some money. We really need to get some success. Any idea when the next grant is going to come? Have you got any good opportunities? Because we're desperate to keep this project going, launch this new initiative, buy this new thing. And you feel that more, you get that more as you get more rejections. What we're finding in the sector is our response to that at the moment is when we feel that stress, when we feel that pressure, we go, I need to get out there and apply for more grants. And so that is resulting on an individual basis. That is resulting in me, your colleagues, other fundraisers, writing more applications. We make more efforts. And so we submit more applications. Therefore, funders are receiving more applications, and there are more rejections. And this cycle continues, and I can give you lots of other reasons. I've only got so much time today. I can give you lots of other reasons why this cycle then builds even more. I'll give you one more. As we build that stress even further, we then look to do more applications. And at that point, we start to reach out further. We've done all the good places we should apply to. We've done the lower hanging fruits, the higher chances of success. And we then start to do our speculative applications, our long shots. And fairly obviously, a long shot is called a long shot because it's a long shot. I just said long shot three times in one sentence. But our speculative applications usually result in us having a higher percentage of rejections. As we do more applications and we do them more quickly, our quality drops. As we submit poorer quality applications, that leads to more rejections. And this cycle seems to be building and building and building more momentum in the sector. And it's really difficult. This cycle needs to break, and it's really difficult to break it in that bottom. We can't break the bottom right. Of course, more applications leads to more rejections. I can't do anything about that. The funders aren't going to create more money. Bottom left, we can think about this. It's really hard, but we've got to think about our well-being, our emotional support, the response, the support that we're getting from our colleagues, the encouragement and the love almost that we're getting from our colleagues, so we're not feeling that stress. And that's something we have to be thinking about and doing anyway. And so I think we can chip away a little bit at that bottom left. But what we can control as individuals is that top one. Yes, you are feeling more stressed. Yes, you are feeling more pressure. Yes, you are more desperate for funding. But does your response to that have to be, I'm going to write even more applications? I would argue no. I would argue the best thing to do when you are seeing your success rates drop, when you are seeing more and more competitions, when you're getting more rejections, is to slow down and to write less applications. I'm going to talk about it in a bit, but I'm going to talk about being more intentional with our efforts, being more focused with our efforts, rather than continuing going, well, I'll try for that one, I'll try for that one, I'll try for that one. We're going to slow down. We're going to go, actually, that one doesn't look right. I don't think we'll get that one. I'm going to focus my time on this, or I'm going to focus my time on researching a fund or whatever. I'm obsessed, absolutely obsessed with this at the moment, and it's something I really want to get into people's heads. What have I got? Oh yeah, that's it. That's my my points. I kind of the opposite of what I've just said. We've got to think about our well-being, and so we need to move away from this kind of speculative, poor quality application. We've got to keep the quality high. If anything, if we can raise the quality of our applications a little bit, move away from those long shots, and to prioritize our efforts, really get control of your, I call it a pipeline, your to-do list, your potential funders to apply for. Get hold of your pipeline. Don't get drawn into funders. Were those of you who are applying for funding, were you one of the, what was it, 2,400 people who applied for the Health Lottery Foundation last week? And I think many of us applied to the Health Lottery Foundation last week because we heard that everyone else was applying to the Health Lottery Foundation. Maybe we got a bit of FOMO and went, I'm going to do this one as well. Because if they're going for it, they're going for it. I need to go for it. I feel like I'm missing out. Well, I think in my mind, if everyone else is applying for it, I probably shouldn't because the level of competition is going to be so high. Can we prioritize and not get drawn into those and do the ones that we've identified? Take control of our pipeline, take control of our efforts, apply for the funds that you feel are really the best opportunities, not the ones that your boss is saying, can you fill in this fund? I need you. Have you heard about this funder? I really think we should go for it. Take control of it yourself and say, yeah, I've researched that funder and I don't think it's right. And these are the reasons why. What I think I should be filling in is this funder who I've taken the time to prospect, to think about, to develop. And we're really interested in this, and something needs to break. And I think we can break it on an individual basis, that writing more, submitting more isn't going to be the answer to your issues. And if hopefully enough of us start to do that, it's going to break this cycle that we're seeing in the sector. The spin on this, just don't get, I don't think I'm hearing it too much at the moment, but don't get concerned that the reason that, and I hear it occasionally, the reason that rejections are so high at the moment is because there's less money. Funders are just not giving out money, are they, anymore? Cost of living crisis, I don't know, maybe a COVID hangover. Funders just aren't giving out what they were. There's less money to be had, and we're all fighting over a smaller pot. It just isn't true. Really interesting research here from 360 Giving that showed last financial year, so not the one that's, well, actually not the one that's just finished, the financial years between previous to that one. We'll just take this top figure because I want to fly through it. Grant giving increased, 12% increase. What is that? I think that's 1.2 billion. I think it is, isn't it? Work it out in the chat if you can. But we saw a 12% increase. Funders are, it's not a huge increase with cost of living and inflation and so on. And I wouldn't be surprised if for the financial year just gone that we don't see that increase. And if anything, it might be similar, it might have plateaued. But that's what we're seeing. We're not seeing funders giving out less money. Yes, there's more of us competing for that pot, but there is money to be had. There are grants available. Don't think that this is not a worthwhile task, because there absolutely is funding out there to be had. But it's about where we target and spend our efforts. So let me move on to. So that's what's happening in the sector. Maybe we'll have a chat about that at the end as well. I will then I want to have a look at finding funds. We mentioned this at the very start. We're going to look at how do you identify these funding. I had an interesting LinkedIn conversation yesterday. How many funders are there? Director of Social Change will tell you there's 8,000. What's this? There's 360 Giving will tell you there's 12,767 trusts and foundations. Charity Commission will tell you there's 49,000 registered grant making charities that make grant to organizations, let alone the ones who give to individuals as well. There are lots of them out there. Hundreds. Well, there's not hundreds. There are literally thousands, possibly tens of thousands of them out there. So how do we find them? And just to wake you up, let us know in the chat, what are the ways in which you research or find out about funders? Just because we're on webinar format and we can't see each other doesn't mean that you don't have to participate. Thank you, Madeline. Oh, hi, Madeline. We know Inspire North. Madeline uses Grin. Do have a look at Grin. I've never received it myself, but Grin is I think it's mainly a newsletter. They might have a bit of a portal as well. Whenever people ask on the Facebook groups what tool should I be using to identify places to apply, someone always says Grin, and it's always then followed up by, oh yeah, I use Grin. It's super cheap and really effective. So do have a look at Grin. Thanks, Madeline, for that one. Loads of years. Yeah, here we go. Nikki and Kirsty have said the same as well. Charity excellence, of course, we are all talking about Ian and his bunnies at the moment. We'll mention, I haven't got a slide on charity excellence, but I'll mention it when I'm pointing at a different slide. What have we got? Thank you, Kathy. Local networking resources. I like conversations, speaking to people. Kirsty's also using Google. I'm going to mention that. Are many of us using ChatGPT instead of Google to find places to apply? I've started to, with mixed success. Let me tell you about that in a second. Thank you, Laura, for the question in the chat box as well. Well, let me tell you what I've got. So what was the question? How do you find places? What are the ways in which you research? How do you research funds? And obviously, lots of you have told me about the tasks that you do, the resources that are available, and that's great. And we'll mention them in a second. First thing I want to mention is one of the best ways in my mind for researching or finding out places to apply is to not research. Is to not get on the internet and search and look and sign up to newsletters and so on. The first thing I want to do is sit down with a sheet of paper. I want to sit down a sheet of paper and I want to think about it. And for some of us, I'm an experienced bid writer. Some of you in the chat box who scored yourself a 5, 6, 7 would go, well, I can do that. I can sit down the sheet of paper and I can probably think of some funders that are eligible that I might need to think about. I might need to look at. But even those of you who are really new, who's that Laura in the chat box, who is really new to bid writing, I would still say use your existing knowledge. Sit down with a sheet of paper and go, well, what funders can I think of? And when we do this exercise with others, people will often say, well, I don't know any funders. I can't do any of that. None of them are in my head. And I say, well, just try. And when you do that, I imagine some of you in the chat box would go, okay, I can't think of any, but I can think of that. What is it? The Awards for All? Maybe I can think of Sport England. Maybe I know the local community foundation. Garfield Western, they sound like they're quite big. I think keep on hearing their names. Maybe Heritage Lottery, Tesco's, the Tesco Stronger Stars. Like I don't know them, but my kids' school seem to get some money from them, so they seem to be a funder. And so you rattle off. Maybe you go Children in Need. Maybe you go Comic Relief because they feel like they're big places that everyone knows. And the point of doing that as an exercise, the point of using that as existing knowledge. Thank you, Kathy. Kathy said local businesses. Maybe you go, well, I've heard of the Screwfix Foundation, but I only know the Screwfix Foundation because I like literally drive past it when I take the kids to school. And I go, well, if I was to say, well, why do you know these funders? You'd say, well, they're the ones that everyone knows. Well, they're the ones that everyone knows. They're the ones that everyone applies to. They're the ones that everyone seems to get money from. And I would respond to that by going, well, they're probably the places that you should be applying to. And this isn't, I need to just qualify my point previously about the House Lottery Foundation. The House Lottery Foundation, 2,400 people applied for it and were, I think, was it 500,000 was available? I think. The point about awards for all, did they say they were going to give out £100 million this year through awards for all? I think that's what I heard, something like that. What's that? 9 figures. I think it might be going into 9 figures this financial year. That is a big pot. Those are big pockets. Those are the places that you know awards for because it seems that everyone seems to get that one. Well, that's what I'll do. I'll go for the funding that everyone seems to get. And then when you are starting off, you don't need to find those niche, weird, and wonderful funders. You start with the big names, the obvious ones. My next step, again, probably isn't quite research. I'm then going to apply for previous funders who have given me money previously, who have given the organization that I'm working for money previously. Simple sales technique, isn't it? Who's the person who's most likely to buy something from you? Well, it's the person who bought something from you previously. And it's the same with grants. Who's the funder who is most likely to fund you? Well, it's probably the one who gave us some money last year, and they gave us some money the year before. We talk about reapplications. That's the best way of being successful, being on top of your reapplications. I got a grant from Garfield Weston 12 months ago. I am now filling in their form now to apply again. That is what we should be doing. Again, research without really having to research, for finding funds without having to research. I'm going to then mention networking and advice. Look out for those conversations. Look out for those opportunities. The bits of information I like to hear is people, whether it's a Facebook group, whether it's a session, a networking session like this, whether it's I'm in the queue to at a conference and I'm listening to other people, or whether it's I'm walking into a museum and there's a plaque on the wall. That kind of, I know that's not networking advice, but that networking advice is going to give me information on money that people have got, grants that were successful. That's what I want to hear. Oh, we got a grant the other day from this funder. That makes me go, well, they've got money from it. That's so much more useful to know that people are getting money, are being successful, rather than some of the research we do will tell us that funders exist. The Health Lottery Foundation is available. It is open. Yeah, but what's the success rate? Is anyone else big? Is anyone else getting them? So you're looking for those bits of people going, oh, I know, I'm always successful with Tesco's, or I'm always getting that local foundation. They always give us money. Oh, maybe I should be applying there. Of course you should. Then when you start doing your proper research, online databases, I'm going to come back to that one. I'll touch on, I haven't got a slide on newsletters, so sign yourself up to some newsletter. Whatever your sensible membership organization is, or local infrastructure organization, that might be your local voluntary action group or CVS group, might be your local, maybe there's an email circulation in the local authority, in the neighborhood team. Maybe I was trying to work out what team it might sit in, but find those. Maybe it's Charity Excellence, maybe it's the Get Grants newsletter. I'm sure you already are on the Charity Digital newsletter. Sign up for people who are going to send you stuff and remind you that stuff's available, that this is now open, this is now closed, this is what the deadline is. Sign yourself up to those. Obviously, Grin we've mentioned as well. Let me just mention AI. ChatGPT for me is I'm quite happy to use Google to have a little dig around to see if I can find places to apply. Start to use ChatGPT a bit more for that. It's really hit and miss. It's really hit and miss. And so with any research anyway, just take it all with a pinch of salt. Do your own little research, and we'll talk about this in a second. As an example, I asked ChatGPT the other day to find me a grant for a charity who wants a minibus. And within 3 seconds, it's not quite that quick, is it? 6 seconds, it gave me 6 funders. 3 of them were incredible. I was just like, yes, of course they do. Why didn't I think of those? That is perfect. The other 3 were just wrong completely. I knew from experience that 2 of them just did not fund that. They were not suitable. And the other one I did a bit of research and it just was exactly the same. And so it's not quite still. It's not quite the answer to everything. So yeah, use that as well. What have I got? So online databases, let me just point a few at you. Have a look. The point with online databases is use the free ones. Use the free ones first. Your local voluntary action group often have them, your local CVS, some of your membership organizations. Lots of you are already using Charity Excellence, which is a free one. It's really good. So use those free ones. Every online database has its nuances. Some are great for some reasons, some of them are rubbish or annoying or difficult for other reasons, and it's a personal preference. You might decide that you want to pay for some. And the two big ones, I think I've got two. I haven't got two big ones, two slides. The two big ones are My Funding Central, run by iDocs, and Funds Online, which is run by Directory of Social Change. They will both charge you. This one says it starts at 50, but it's £50 to £500 in that ballpark, unless you're a massive organisation. And if you're a massive organisation, it probably gets too expensive to make it really worth its while, to be honest with you. But that I would happily pay £200-300 to use something like Funds Online, My Funding Central. Fairly obviously online databases. You tell them who you are, what you're looking for, and it gives you an answer. It gives you a list of funders to apply for. I would get grants. We've got a really simple one on our website as well, a free funding finder. So do have a look at that. The final point is to compare yourself to other organisations. Someone had a really nice phrase for this the other day. Peer analysis. No, I don't think it was. I always call it competitive analysis, and I don't like to think of this sector thinking of each other as competitors. But we're doing that kind of peer comparison, maybe having a look at organizations who are similar to us and going, well, who have they been funded by? Is a great way of identifying places to apply. I'm a little bit obsessed with grants, aren't I? I'm a little bit obsessed with actual grants, recent grants, funding that's been given out rather than that kind of theoretical. These places are open. And this is one of the ways that we'll find some of that. I know from this page that Gingerbread, who are a charity who supports single parents, I know they've been funded by whoever it is, the Maud Elkington Charitable Trust. I now know that the Maud Elkington Charitable Trust are interested in working and supporting single parents. If that is my line of work, that is a good potential funder to apply for. That's a good one for my pipeline, for my tracker, for my to-do list. And you can find it on an organization's website. You can also find it through their charity, through their annual accounts. This is a page of annual accounts from the charity CP Sport, Cerebral Palsy Sport, which you could access. I accessed via the Charity Commission website, and they've got a list of funders here. And every single one of these funders is in some ways interested in disability sport. If that was my line of work, this is a pretty useful list of places that I could apply to. But it's not about just collecting. I love prospecting. I love finding places to apply for and researching them and reading about them and trying to suss them out and work it out. It's all like a bit of a puzzle that I'm trying to work out the answer to. Oh yeah, let me just say, and just there's a load of kind of prospecting tips, advice on how to find places to apply. Just remember, if you're at the start of this journey, you haven't done or much in the way of applying for grants, then go for those big ones. Do your reapplications. Don't get lost in annual accounts on websites on 17 different newsletters. If you haven't done your Tesco's, your awards for all, your community foundation, your Garfield Westerns, go for those ones first. You don't need to, and maybe this is part of the point here, you don't need to identify 100 places to apply for if you've only got enough time to do 2 applications in the next month. Maybe find yourself half a dozen maximum, and then get through those, and then find yourself another half a dozen. Don't be that perennial. Never said that before. Perennial prospector. It definitely is a thing. But then we still have to. We will identify the half a dozen places that we could to apply for. But we then have. How do we then work out who to actually spend our time with? And that, again, this is back to the point about what's happening in the sector and the idea of breaking the high application cycle and slowing down is making sure we do our research. And this has always been the point. But it's just never been more true now than ever. And so many of us will say, "Oh, my boss told me about the Maud Elkington. Maybe I went on that Charity Digital webinar and this guy said about the Maud Elkington Charitable Trust, so I'm going to apply there." Well, I didn't tell you that. I told you they exist. But this slide is now saying, well, if you think you're interested in the Maud Elkington Charity Trust, have a look at them. Do your research, slow yourself down, spend more time than you think you should trying to work out that fund or trying to work out what they're interested in. Don't go, I haven't got time to do that research. I've only got enough time to fill in the form. Because then you end up filling in a form which isn't focused on them enough. And also, there's a very good chance you're not even eligible or they're not really interested in your line of work. When you do that, when you're doing that research, you'll use them going bottom up. I'm not sure I'm going bottom up, I'm going bottom first. You read, make sure you get on the funder's website, understand what they're about. Funders spend thousands of pounds, hours and hours perfecting their eligibility guidelines and their guidance documents. Read them, check them, understand them. Don't just go, I don't need to read that, I'm going to crack on. But be me, be interested in the recent grants. I think keep this phrase if you can. Look at their pattern of grant giving. What I mean by pattern of grant giving is what do they give? How do they give? Is there a size of grant that they seem to like? Is there a section of the sector that they seem to prefer? Do you look at their recent grants as a funder, use 360 Giving, use the funder's annual accounts, use their website if it's there? Do you look at their pattern of grant giving and go, wait a minute, all of these are in the Southwest. So maybe, but we're not in the Southwest. Well, what is that telling you? Is it probably telling you shouldn't bother applying? Have they got those preferences that you can pick up from their grant giving pattern from their recent grants? Similarly, case studies or stories or news will tell you about the type of project that they are funding. The recent grants will say, blimey, they've supported a lot of organisations that work with carers. The case studies, the projects, and news stories will tell you that, I don't know, they do support lots of organisations that work with carers, but it all seems to be with young carers. So that gives us our focus, doesn't it? That gives us what we should be speaking to them about. And that's why I got distracted by speaking. Speak to the funder. Do remember that a lot of funders, and I know it's competitive out there, and I know that funders are busy, and I know that some funders don't respond to anything at all. But some funders are super engaged, and they would love to have a chat with you, would love to have an email from you before you apply. And some of those funders will give you very clear guidance. Sometimes that guidance is, yeah, don't bother applying because you're not suitable. We're not going to fund you. We've got no money, which is really useful information because then we don't fill in a form that is going to get a rejection because you're not suitable, they haven't got any money. But sometimes they will give you that steer. So do that. Factor in a little bit of time. You know what, I'm going to drop them an email. I'll leave it a few days. I'll drop them an email, leave it a few days and see if I get a response. So do your research, take your time. I've got a slide about ineligible applications just to say super quickly today. The research shows, and every conversation we have with funders, there is a massive amount of people who apply for grants that they're not eligible for. It's the CICs applying for grants that say the funders guidelines say we only fund registered charities. It's the charities who are asking for 20 grand when the funder says in their guidelines we only fund up to £10,000. It's the organisations submitting their application without the safeguarding policy or the GDPR policy or the management accounts that the funder says when you submit you have to send us those. These are all reasons, in particular in the current climate, these are reasons for funders to reject you. And unfortunately, with such a high demand on their resources, with such a high number of applications they have to read, score, and assess, funders are looking for reasons to not have to read, score, and assess your applications. And we have an increasing, I'm sure it is increasing, this has been happening for the last 20 years. We have a huge proportion, over a third of applicants who are making those mistakes and not getting their applications assessed. Right. I then want to just give you a load of thoughts on bid writing. So that's how we find the places to apply, how we then pick and choose between them. And I think the point with this kind of research is you can just tell. especially again in the current climate, you will research the funder and you're looking at their guidelines, you're looking at how they talk about stuff, and you're looking at how they say they want the types of stuff that they want to fund, and then you're looking at how they're actually giving. And at times you look at it and go, that is us. That is us. This fits so well. And that is then where you spend your time. And sometimes you go, I think this is us. This might be. We seem to be the type of thing that sometimes they fund. I would go, well, fine, go for it, but let's not overthink it. Let's not do the most amazing application. Let's get something done and get it in. And then obviously on the other end, if you're looking at it going, yeah, this isn't really us, but I wonder if I could make it work. Don't do that. Don't do that. So you're looking for those that you go, yeah, this is perfect. I fit so well. So how do I find? So yeah, I then just want to. I was just checking what my last slide is. I want to just give you a load of top tips, a load of thoughts on how I then. It says improve our applications, but it's just a general kind of thoughts on bid writing. And I said to Johan beforehand, I could do a session on the basics of bid writing, and I really wanted to talk about the landscape at the moment, the current climate in the sector. And what that does, though, is that points back to the importance of the basics. There are many of us who are experienced bid writers who we just forget the basics. I'm great at, actually, I'm not. I'm not that bid writers, but there's lots of bid writers out there who are great at storytelling. They're great at imagery. They're great at that kind of emotional connection that we love to get in our applications. But then they're doing that and they're not doing the basics. And therefore, your application isn't quite hitting the mark, isn't hitting the buttons. And people reading applications going, it feels like there's a really good project here, but there's something missing. And more often than not, it's some of the basics, which some of those things we've got that bit about applying for the bit of places you're eligible. We've got the bit about stronger prospecting. Get your house in order. You might have seen that we said in this webinar, we're going to talk about this idea of being fundable. Being fundable means getting your house in order, making sure you've got everything in place. And for some of us, those of you who are new, maybe there's some people here who are setting up an organization themselves. That's the basics of making sure you have a minimum of 3 directors or trustees, making sure you've got a bank account with 2 signatories, making sure you've got all the policies and procedures in place. Because we know that if we submit them without it, we don't. We're not going to be successful. Maybe for some of us, getting our house in order is just collecting that information. I work for a big charity. I'm the fundraiser, but I haven't got a copy of the safeguarding policy. I haven't got a copy of the management accounts. Well, get them, especially with tight deadlines. Get hold of those. Get those on your database. Get them on your save files. Get them get a folder of all the stuff that you need. Get that sorted. Maybe you're in a small, medium-sized organization where your house isn't in order. We've got a safeguarding policy, but it hasn't been reviewed for 2 years. Well, let's get that sorted. Maybe as a fundraiser, that's not my role to get that sorted. But if it's not sorted, my applications are going to be rejected, or I'm going to have a less chance of success. So I'm kind of going to make this my role. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to get onto the safeguarding officer, the trustee, the CEO, my boss, whoever it is. Can we get this sorted? Can we get this improved? I need management accounts. For some reason, we now have to, not for some reason, we now have to have a GDPR policy. Can we get one written? Can we get one in place? Work on credibility. Those of you who've seen me before, I recognize a few of you in the chat box, you will have heard me talk about credibility. What I mean by credibility is there are 2 questions that funders ask. They ask internally, I believe, or grantor officers ask, and sometimes they do it intentionally as well. They are asking, is this applicant a safe pair of hands? Can we trust them with this grant? If we're going to give them £100,000, can they manage a grant of that size? Are they a safe pair of hands? Second question I believe funders are asking themselves all the time is, can they really do this project? Can they really do this work? This sounds super complicated. They're going to be doing some work. I don't know. They're going to go into prisons and provide some mentoring to offenders. Can they really do that? Have they got the ability to do that? Have they got the experience? Have they got the people? and the skills to do that. And at the moment, as always, actually, but at the moment especially, it's important to build that credibility into your application forms. Funders don't know you're a safe pair of hands unless you show them you're a safe pair of hands. Talk about, especially maybe with that project stuff. Yeah, maybe with the project stuff. If you are doing a complicated project that might seem like it's difficult to deliver, tell them exactly how you're going to do it. I've seen this before where I don't know, a scout group is now going to run a whatever, a mentoring program. And I go, really, this scout group's going to run a mentoring program. And the detail is absolutely there. And I go, well, yeah, clearly they are, because look, that is how they're going to do it. If you are that safe pair of hands, tell the funder that you are that safe pair of hands. Talk about your track record. Talk about the grants that you've had previously. Talk about the partnerships. Talk about the statutory relationships you've got in place. Whatever it is, the stuff that make you great, and maybe that's that bottom point. The stuff that make you great, the stuff that shows that you're a brilliant organization, that you know makes you a brilliant organization. You've got to tell them. You got to tell the funder. I'm obsessed. The last 13 years of doing Get Grants, I've repeat myself saying that grant fundraising or application forms isn't a space to be modest. Most of us in the charity sector are pretty coy about what we do. When I go to the pub with my mates and they say, how are you getting on with that Get Grants thing? I go, no, it's going all right, it keeps me busy. We help a few people here and there. I don't go, it's amazing, like we had 4,500 people come to a conference. It was crazy. We loved it. Like you don't do that. And therefore, in applications, we so often see applications where it's just we are going to try and run this project. Our aim is to do this. We hopefully will make an impact to the young people that we're supporting. No, you're amazing organizations doing amazing work, and tell your funder that. Spell it out to them. We are going to change the lives of people. We are incredible. Our team of experienced people are literally the best people possible to work with these beneficiaries, whoever they are. And my final point, just need an outcomes and get out there, find some resources, some support on how to do your need and outcomes better, because they are in terms of scoring, in terms of assessors, funders making decisions, they're the bits. They are the bits. They are the bits that are double, triple scored. You can get away with lots of bits and lots of sections not being amazing, not being that strong. You can't get away with your outcomes not making sense. You can't make sense of your need answer being weak. Those are the bits you've really got to put the effort in, collect the data, make them really clear to the applicant, to the funder. Those are the bits to spend that bit more time on, and that's the basics and always has been. There we go. I'm going to try and hold off there, and I think we've got 10 minutes left to chat, Yowen.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining and your really busy chat. I was following some of the questions and advice in that. So that's always good to see. Reminder that there is now the opportunity to upvote on the questions, and we're going to run through as many as possible. There's probably too many to fit in here. So please do just click the thumbs up and then we'll address the ones that are most relevant. John, if you've covered any of them, just say, and we'll skip to the next one. So first one from Kathy, tips when you know there's a need, but challenging to find the relevant fund or grant givers.
We'll go for that kind of that. I can't think of the phrase, that competitor analysis. And I'm just obsessed on. I'm obsessed with recent grants. I'm obsessed with who's given something. So if you've got a project you want to do, and I doubt that any of you, and I know sometimes we do think this, I doubt any of you have got a project that no one else has ever done before. Even the most innovative projects, you go, oh no, someone did that in Barnsley a few years ago. You'll find someone else who has done it. And that was what I would be doing. Well, can I find someone else who's done it and who funded them? And sometimes, unfortunately, projects aren't fundable. There's some initiatives that we do that grant funders just aren't interested in and are really hard. And it might be that's what you find. You find that that organization who is doing that work that you're really keen on, you can work out and actually looks like that's funded by a tender or statutory or some community fundraising or so on. But yeah, look for those examples.
Yeah. Bro, well, this one's quite interesting, and I think it will apply to a lot of people. Certainly applies to Charity Digital. But how would you advise reapplying for funding from a funder where the relationship has lapsed? So, i.e., it was more than a year ago, and there hasn't been much contact or continuation of the relationship. It's from Nikki.
Yeah, yeah. I would get myself back out there. We talk a lot about stewardship. Those of you who haven't heard that phrase, stewardship is where it's relationship building, isn't it? We talk about stewardship in our individual giving and our community fundraising, in our legacies and our corporates, and I think it can be the same in grants. Why not reach out? Why not drop them an email? I saw a lovely comment in the chat box, and I know this isn't quite answer to this question, that someone said, "Oh well, yeah, I do a bit of that reapplications. I send them my report, and then the next week I send them an application for my next request." But you can do that. You can, even if it's you haven't spoken to the funder for 3 years. Drop them an email, drop them a line, send them an email with your annual report and say, you haven't heard from us previously, but we've been super busy doing all this other stuff supported by other people, and we'd love to re-engage you. And they might not reply, but a month later, they'll probably get an application from you, and maybe there's something in the back of their head going, oh, yeah, no, we got that report from them, didn't we? They looked interesting.
Bro. A bit more of a straightforward one here from Justin. Who was the person you mentioned compiling a list on what funders are closing or reviewing on what funders are closing and reviewing their open grants?
Yeah, yeah, cool. Really, I'm going to stick in the chat box as well.
Yeah, we'll circulate that round afterwards.
Yeah, I haven't got the link handy, but it's the list by Joe Jeffrey.
The list. Yeah,
And you
send it to us, John, and we'll make sure we send it on. And we'll
cool.
send anything else. On a similar vein, what are the examples of the big main funders we can start with? This is from Rachel. I only caught Tesco, so some of the other ones.
Yeah, yeah. Where would I go for anyone? I'd go awards for all. It's certainly where nearly everyone should be starting. It's our biggest funder. It's our biggest chance of success. Doesn't mean you can just do a weak application form and you're going to get it. It's still competitive. They still only fund the stuff that is eligible, which is the most that yeah hits their guidelines. But it's the funder with the deepest pockets. Outside of that, have a look at if you're a regional organization, look at your community foundation. Just Google wherever you're based, Leicestershire Community Foundation, there will be one. Have and whoever it is, look there. They often hold lots of different pots of funds. Same with the Tesco's is held by Groundwork. Have a look at Groundwork, see what other money they've got. Lots of those have good sized pockets and lesser competition.
Bro. And Justin thanks you, so that's nice. Yeah, two from Jack. One, as a relatively small charity, our work is overseas. How can our small grants team of two people better compete with larger charities?
I haven't got a lot for you. Jack, I haven't got a lot for you, Jack. I don't do a lot of overseas stuff. And so I haven't got the kind of go-to you get why with overseas work that I think there's that bit of credibility, isn't it? Like, can you really do it? Like, can you really? And I think that's why the money goes to the bigger charities because it sounds super complicated. You're going to build what in where, and how are you going to do that? Have you really got people on the ground and so on? And it's certainly one to kind of provide that detail to show how it's achievable, how it's possible. Big thing for credibility is shining a light on all the other stuff that you've done previously. How the hell are they going to build that thing in Ghana? Well, have a look here. We've already built it in Ethiopia. We've already built it in wherever we did it in Nepal. And okay, fine, I trust you because you've done it loads of times, even if you're a small organization. And then the other one, play to your strengths. What makes you better than a big organization? Why are you more investable? Why are you going to deliver the work so much better than a big organization? Because of whatever it is, Jack, the nimbleness, the excitingness, the whatever makes you special, concentrate on that. Don't concentrate on the stuff that make you weaker than them and trying to compete. You play to your strength. I like that one.
And the second one from Jack is also really good. It's Jack B. So I'm assuming Jack. What is the best way to approach very large funders? So they're talking Gates Foundation, Rockefeller, UNICEF, etc., that have no formal application processes.
You've got to somehow make some connection. That this is where grant giving is no longer bid writing. This is where grant fundraising is major donors. It's corporate fundraising. And think about your major donor, your corporate fundraising thoughts, tips, advice, and so on. And that is make a connection, find someone. And I know if you're a small organization, how the hell am I going to make friends with someone who's got a connection with Bill Gates? Or maybe I'm not. But therefore, I have to drop down a few rungs and go for the medium, pretty big organizations. And then I'm using my LinkedIn, I'm using my connections, I'm using my trustees, I'm using someone, I'm using my past participants. I'm finding again, it's major donors, who's got a connection with who? And can you link me in with maybe it's your previous funders? That's always a good one as well. If you've got a strong connection with a medium-sized funder or a smaller funder, who are their trustees? Do they know people? Is there that opportunity to reach? But you're fairly obvious, whatever the question is, you can't, these are people that you can't apply to. And so you're not going to get it by sending a letter, by filling in a form. It's about making that connection.
Well, yeah, great. An anonymous attendee, or maybe that's their name. Any tips for getting in front of closed or invite-only funders that seem like a great fit? Or should we, and this is a great question, I think, should we even bother trying?
Oh, I'll pause on that one. The first half of it, it's the same. How do you get in
Yeah.
front of them? Well, it's the same. In particular with funders, it's interesting because lots of trustees cross over. I often look on Charity Commission and I look at funders trustees. I go, I recognise that name, and then I go, oh, that upper class white guy sits on the boards of 5 other funders, and I often then apply for all 5 and end up getting them because that guy recognises the organisation. And so yeah, it's getting those connections. Should I bother? I think lots of people are asking this question about closed funders at the moment, unsolicited applications. Lots of people are focusing on it. And so these unsolicited funders are going to get a lot of people reaching out to them. And I think I probably go back to the the the, the cycle thing. I would bother, you should bother, but you should only bother with the ones that you go, they're me. It's literally me looking in the mirror. They do what we do. They want what we've got. Like that's the conversation. I can really add value to what they're doing rather than going, they're unsolicited. I guess I could try and reach out and see if they're interested in us. I think it's the ones that you go, that synergy's horrible word. That synergy's there. And then it is worth the effort.
Bro, thank you. Nikki asks, our biggest struggle at the moment is getting rejections with very generic, lots of applications. We can't provide feedback. How do we figure out what we can do better? Which might be a chance to plug Get Grants, John.
Yeah, why not? First of all, I was talking to a funder about this recently, one of the community foundations, one of the big ones recently, and that's one of the challenges for them is with high levels of applications, they don't have much time to give tailored feedback. But also one of the reasons they struggle sometimes to give tailored feedback because it is just that. Like your application isn't bad. Like it's a good application. It's just that there were others that were better. And sometimes it's fairer for them to say that rather than to choose one thing. We rejected you because your need answer wasn't as strong as it could have been. You then go away and work a brilliant need answer, but you still don't get it because actually it was across the board wasn't good enough.
Mm.
Yeah, whatever. Come along to all the Get Gans training courses and networking and get support and advice and improve yourself across the board. But also just get someone else to read your application. Most of us have never read anyone else's applications, and most of us have never had our applications read by someone else.
Mm.
And just that second pair of eyes, in particular, doing that with a fundraiser who is also knows this stuff, getting them to look at it to be able to go, yeah, like this is good, but it's a bit weak there. I'd probably make this a bit stronger. Of course, Get Grants have an application review service that you can pay for, but you might be able to make a mate in fundraising and get them to support, and you can help them and they can help you.
Brilliant. We'll have more time for one more 1 minute question, but this is also related, so I think it's really important. It's from Kathy. Lessons learned from putting in bids with other organizations and what to make sure of, what to make sure you do. So this is about collaborating on a bid, I think, which is a
Yeah, yeah. And there's some people always ask me like, what's your opinion on partnership applications or collaborative applications? My 1 minute answer is there's no such thing. They don't exist. There is no such thing as a partnership application. There is a lead applicant, and there are other organisations who are involved in that project. And with that in mind, the lead, sorry, so there is an applicant who then is responsible of that relationship with that funder, responsible for all of the delivery of that project. I therefore go, well, I enter partnership applications really cautiously
Mm,
because for it to work, I've more so when I get the money, I've got to be sure that everyone else is going to do their job and do it well. Because
yeah,
if one person doesn't, it's going to ruin my relationship with the funder. And so I approach them cautiously. And I think funders feel in a similar way that it's you that I'm dealing with. And fine, you can have partners, you got delivery partners, you got this, and you got that. But yeah, approach them cautiously. Of course, adds a big credibility bow. That's
yeah,
if I'm delivering this project, this work with deaf people, and I'm working with RNID as a delivery partner or as a partnership application. Wow, that's incredible credibility. It adds a lot. But I'm going to make sure that the partnership's really strong. I'm going to make sure they're going to do what they do before I sign myself on the bottom of an application form.
brilliant. All right, well, that's all we have time for today. So I will say thank you once more to John for a brilliant session, and thank you to everyone who joined us. It was super engaging, and we love seeing so many comments and questions. If there are any questions we didn't answer, do feel free to email us, and maybe we'll get an answer back to you. Email Charity Digital, and we'll speak to John, or we'll see what we can do internally. On a related note, we are running a training session. It's a Charity Digital Academy on writing successful funding applications next month. That's on the 19th of August. Check out the Charity Digital website. We'll pop a link in the chat and send all the resources, all the slides. So please don't worry if you missed anything. Last point, if you could share your feedback, that would be fantastic. It's super important to us, and we do enter everyone who provides feedback into a prize draw. I've not been told what the prize is, but just assume it's amazing. So yeah, if you have a spare moment, just that would be really great. One more time, thank you, John, and thank you everyone for joining us. Cheers.